What's up guys, it's that Pan again. I'm here again with another video, and today we're going to be looking at some brackets, but I wanted to talk a bit off the start and just give my thoughts, right? And honestly, I'm gonna be very selective, or I'm gonna plan to, unless they change something or unless people in the comments are like, nah, you're good, bro. But I just don't know if this is like worth repeating every single week, right? Like I think like once a month made a lot of sense. It was a lot more interesting to talk a bit about brackets. But when it's every single week, I feel like, obviously there aren't as interesting brackets in some rounds. For example, G2, like I could laugh at it, but that's about all, right? Because the only reason I would laugh at G2 is because obviously it's like ROK versus HMB. Like I don't know if they're actually gonna fight or if they're just gonna be like, nope, like we're sitting this one out. But I just don't think like some of these reviews are even worth doing. You know what I mean? Especially with how often they're about to be, like how frequent. I don't think I really need to go over every single bracket review like every single week. I don't know, man. Like it might just get repetitive, and I don't know if it's really worth going over. And I might be better off using my time towards just making some of my PvP videos or something, or even like another tier list or something like that, right? Like I just don't think like I care to do this as much, kind of given how frequent Island Raid and AR is kind of coming around. I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on that. Either way, let's hop right into it. We'll just talk a bit about the brackets. We'll just look through them, give our thoughts. So we got G1 here. You do have Boone, and I'm not 100% sure about Boone because I don't know. I don't know if they registered right with like the 22 billion combat power. I know yesterday they had, and I don't know if this had to do with Pompeii or something, but I know yesterday they only had like 16 billion. I honestly don't know how much they registered with because I wasn't checking at reset, and I'm actually not in Boone for this one, so I'm not gonna be there to fight it out. Okay, this bracket was a little bit weird. You had Frog in here. I like Frog personally, just so everybody knows. I'm not like trying to throw disrespect, but this is not a G1 group. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know how well they'll fare there. I mean, they have like some players, right, who have a decent amount of kills. Like they're obviously not like just a purely farm group, but this isn't like obviously a G1 group. I mean, at the very least, hopefully they'll be active enough to fill rallies, fill towers. I just don't see them helping with like running double rallies or anything like that. You get what I'm saying? You have MBD. MBD, man, I love MBD. If you're watching this, Z, I love you guys. Okay, I always kind of meet ride MBD, but they're always a really good fighter group. They always show up to these fights, especially being on the main legion. They're just kind of in that situation where it's a lot more advantageous. They'll probably be a good help on the field, not to mention just being able to run double rallies or multiple rallies across towers. I think MBD would be pretty good with that. If Boone is still merged for this island raid, I mean they have a lot of the whales still from like DHX. I think they have a like few from SSI. Like I think this guy's from SSI. I don't know if like a lot of SSI members are here or not. It's from 4. Yeah, I don't know, but I know like Karosh, for example, this dude's a monster. They have some pretty good whales from DHX and SSI here though, so at least field wise, that's gonna be nice for having people to show up. Although you have on the Golden Legion, UOD is already a really strong group. Although being at 13 billion might, them alone I don't think would have been enough to kind of beat Boone. They do have a few people with insane armaments, insane parts, so that in itself would be kind of a hassle to manage. Not to mention they just have a lot of T6 power for the field. And if it was just UOD, I would say, I don't think that they can beat Boone just because there's a number disparity. But when it comes down to how it is, they have allies obviously in their legion. And Avis, like this is a big looking group. They have this guy who looks like a tanky player. They have a lot of really strong players, and they also have Hats, which I would say is still up there, but I think Hats just obviously doesn't have the same amount of T6 presence. But when it comes to maybe being able to run multiple rallies, maybe they can rely on one of these people. I don't know how their armaments are looking. That'll be like one of the main things to see the trades, but they could at least run double rallies being UOD and Avis, so that's a good thing. Hats can maybe help on the field a bit. Same with Frog. I just think that, like I said, Frog does not have the same T6 power or like whale power, so I think they're kind of in the same situation as Hats there. Now we're going to look at the side legions. We have EXEO. I've seen these guys a bit, but I don't think this is like a G1 group either. You know what I mean? Like definitely like I would say like a stronger group than Frog or something. Do we even have any like I don't think we have like anybody with like crazy, crazy gear. Thing is, like, it's always the situation though, where no matter what you want to think from looking at a profile, like this guy right here, right? He has purple and gold parts. For all I know, this guy has a 6 million my armament, just jacked up, hiding in his freaking vest. So I don't even know. But based off like looking across them, it's gonna be kind of hard for these guys to really compete. Like I think obviously. Obviously, I think when it comes down to legions, you still have a legion at the end of the day. So when it comes down to numbers, you can have the numbers show up and kind of help on the field. But when it comes down to towers, it's just going to be really hard to trade really well against Jade or against Gold, which I mean, that's really expected, right? Like, it's always the top or bottom legion are really just fodder. It's almost always fodder. Like, the only situation that I found it not to be fodder was, I think it was like 2 island ARs ago, right? And it was with HAO, obviously, where MK was there. And I think MK there being alone was just, not only was it a morale factor, it was just, you have this dude with 6 million my armaments who is able to, man towers, able to run rallies with Safe Me, obviously, because Safe Me was running rallies with them. And I don't know, man, like it's just kind of hard to really do much in these brackets though. Even with like MK, for example, I think that that Legion still was at a lost cause when if they got completely focused by HMB in that one bracket, and if DHX wasn't hard focused on banging down on HMB, I think that they still would have had a hard time being spread into too many towers. You know what I mean? I think they still would have broke. But in any case, that was like the only bracket I've ever seen these like side legions. And by the only bracket, I mean like only top bracket, because obviously there's like G10 or G11 and they usually are more evened out. But in the case of like G1 through 3 or something, it's usually not that good. So G2, I'm not going to sit on it for long because I find this to be kind of stupid. You have ROK in this Legion, right? And you have HME in the other Legion. And I was really thinking, like, did the devs just do this because people always say like the top brackets are handpicked? Did they do this simply to be like, yeah, we don't handpick top brackets because obviously we wouldn't pair 2 allies against each other, right? Like, I just find it so stupid. While I'm here, I will say, like, honestly, big props to 59E. I know I've talked about them a few times, but I freaking love this group, man. Like, I don't think I'd be able to do what they do, and I swear they do this every single AR I've seen them, every single island raid I've seen them. They show up to every single fight. Like, that, for example, last island raid, they showed up, and they ended up losing their towers against ROK, right? And there's almost no chance that these guys would have been trading relatively positive against their rallies, I feel like. But they always show up, and I always see them do this. We fought against them 2 to 3 times. These guys are absolute monsters, man. Like, I have so much respect for this alliance. It is crazy. But I also was laughing because you look over here, and it's like, yeah, you have 59. Like, why do we have two region 59 alliances on different legions across the map? So you're forced to fight each other unless somehow, right? Like, let's say Golden and Jade allied together, and the only case that would be is if like Jade, for example, didn't capture a level 6, didn't capture a level 7, and then Golden maybe captured everything on this side of the map, and then let's say Crimson captured this level 6, and you had Azure capture this level 6. That would be like the only case that I feel like these two would be paired together, but it's much harder to do in higher brackets, I feel like, especially if like the side legions just decide not to grab a level 6. But this is some of the weirdest matchmaking I've seen. Like, the fact that you have 259 alliances across the map from each other is a bit mad to me. It's a bit crazy. It's just a bit weird, right? Like, it's just not something you normally see. Sorry to the other alliances in this bracket. I'm not really going to go over it very hard just because, like, I honestly don't really feel like this is worth reviewing just because it's so weird to me. And I don't even know how, like, if they want to fight each other or if they're going to, like, make it a friendly battle or what the case is going to be. It's just really weird seeing them kind of fight each other to me. And I guess we'll kind of see how that goes. G3, you have SSI, obviously a really big group. They still have a lot of their whales here, so they're still stacked and packing over here. You have NWO. I don't know, man. I don't know how NWO would fare in a bracket like this, but I don't know. NWO does have some heavy hitters, to be fair. You have Zoo, and I think Zoo's actually a pretty strong group. You have Boo. We have Boo and Zoo. Boo looks actually pretty freaking chunky. Okay, we got a pretty good Legion over here, and then we got Jade, and Jade, you know, you have 147A, and I think 147A is obviously a really good group. And then you have all these other alliances. I honestly think that this one might actually be a closer fight. I actually will probably look. I feel like I'm gonna look into this bracket. Like I don't even know if G1's worth watching. It's hard to say. I think G1's obviously going to be a hard fight as long as all the legions show up, but I feel like this one's maybe going to be more tense. I don't know, man. I prefer like islands and stuff that are going to be, for example, like a day or 2 days of just fighting and stretching each other out across the map and playing like extremely strategically. Like those are very tense. Those are very interesting. Whereas if it like ends within the first few hours, it's just not as interesting. You know, like it has to be a lot more tense, a lot more I don't know, just it has to be a lot more interesting like that for me. Because I will say, if you guys have never watched my one video, one of my favorite islands, if not my favorite island raid, was against SMHS, and you guys know I've trashed them quite a few times because I just really don't like SMHS, like honestly. But I will say that was one of my most interesting islands, and one of the aspects might be due to the fact that it was a lot of betrayal and stuff that just made it more interesting. You know what I mean? And it kind of intensified emotions. Not to mention we were getting smashed, right? And I don't know, the comeback story was kind of crazy to me. It was just like it was super intense, and everything just had my emotions kind of hyped up, and that was like what made the island as good as it was. Not to mention it was just like it was such an exhausting fight, especially considering that SMHS were I think they were like Korean or they were Chinese or something, right? And they were on a completely different time zone than me. I think they were Korean, and I had to stay up multiple nights late, right? Just because I had to keep fighting them into the night. And I also had to fight them during the day, so we had that advantage of catching their main players offline. It was one of the most intense islands I've ever fought. It was freaking crazy. As for G4, G4 we have Val, which has, you know, Danny. We have Safe Me in rank 1. We do have some other players too. And I mean we have HLUN. This is actually a pretty big group as well. I will say, like when concerning Golden, I'm like, you know, you have LAS, and LAS is always comes out strong. You know, you have Croc, and I will say, like one thing I actually thought about talking about here, and I'll talk about it. You know, you'll see Safe Me and instantly be like, oh, this is a lost battle. And to an extent, you know, I guess that could be true, but that's really circumstantial. You know, you have a player like Croc, and he's like 1/4 of Safe Me is my. But might obviously isn't everything. I think like there is some downsides to having so much combat power. Like realistically, given the money, right? If I was in Safe Me's shoes, I would honestly power up to maybe 300 million might, and I would stop there. I think one of the biggest issues with like you know with this amount of power is it's really hard to make the most of all of it unless, you know, you're obviously solo defending towers, or if you're slamming towers and swarming them. And it's not as simple as swarming towers, because I've had many situations where, you know, obviously players would swarm our towers who were whales, and what we would do is we just pick off their marches, filling up their hospital with ease and taking extremely good trades, right? And if Safe Me was in the same situation and say he doesn't have enough field support or field control, he's not able to really dispatch all that might. In some cases, that might mess up your matchmaking, or that might make it harder for you to get a really good match. And I'm not trying to throw shots here. I think Safe Me is a good fighter. I just think like having 1 billion might, it's a cool thing to have, right? Like, and it's something everybody's gonna be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But it's also like, you know, you're not really able to use all that might efficiently, right? Like I would honestly realistically stop around like 300 million at most, and I would feel kind of satisfied with that, because then I could at least swarm towers I want to swarm, or I could do like surprise swarms and stuff, and I would have enough troops to kind of throw around and drop a certain amount of might, and then I could maybe stop off if like I kind of need to, or if I hit a certain troop, you know, amount, you know, that, and in some cases, you know, maybe more might would do you good, because if you're like Safe Me, for example, and let's say you're pushing your enemy back, if he wanted to, he could literally just swarm a checkpoint and get 100% deads and have no care in the world, because I mean this dude has like what 60 million T6, which is insane. But like I was saying, you know, there's a player like obviously Croc or something who's I would say he's as strong, if not stronger than Safe Me armament wise, right? And dealing with him is going to be extremely hard, be it on the field, be it on towers. Like dealing with him, not to mention LAS is just a really monstrous group. I will say, I think Is Seiya missing? I don't know if Seiya's not here in the Alliance right now, but Seiya is one of their beasts. Okay, well, you got Black Ash. Either way, I think LAS is gonna kind of go hard. You know, you have Rise here, who shows like they show stronger, but I think like obviously LAS is stronger. They show stronger on the Might. I don't know why this is like it's done that to me actually before an Island Raid, where we were like we showed as like 3 times stronger than Boone, which was hilarious to me. Okay, and finally we're going to look at Crimson, and we're going to look at Azure really quickly. Crimson, I will say I did notice that they had some players from DHX here. Teddy Boy, he's a pretty big hitter. And you obviously have like LM4S, you have Fine, you have AK&D, and these I feel like these are names you kind of sometimes see pop up in like G1ish, or not G1, but like some of the higher brackets. I would say like Fine I don't see as much, but I obviously know them. I will say like when it comes down to Azure, I have a lot less like faith here. SKNG, like, and to be fair guys, I like these people, right? Like I'm not just trying to trash on them, but I can understand like the fight ability from these groups. Like I don't think SKNG has the fighting power for this. I don't think ROA. I even heard from like I don't know, man. Like I don't think these guys are like heavy hitters, right? Like I don't think these guys fight like crazy. Like 162 million, 12 million kills. Just not really like it's just not a good look, when kind of going into G4 especially, and you have like tons of heavy hitters on these groups that you're gonna kind of need to rely on. There's Doom. I mean, Doom, I don't know if they're going to really show up that hard either. I know that this is actually a really massive fighter-focused group, but they're only at 70 players. I don't think they obviously have, like, 6 million my armaments to go up mid and fight it out with Golden. I think, like, Crimson is highly more desirable than, like, Golden or, sorry, not Golden. I feel like Crimson is highly more desirable than Azure as an ally, so I feel like whoever gets that is going to have the kind of just the advantage kind of going into this bracket, So G4, I feel like it's really a lot decided on how Crimson is going to decide on who to ally with. And finally, we're going to be looking at G5. G5, I don't know. I looked at it a little bit, I was giving it a little look-see. And actually, before I talk about it, I had someone in my comment section, and I believe the comment was along the lines of, next, I guess it was Island Raid, right? Island Raid, you should go from like G50 or something. They were saying I should go down to G50. And let me ask you guys if that's something you would enjoy, because I swear I would have to sit at this computer for like 2 hours or like an hour straight going through brackets to talk about them, right? Like that would be kind of insane. And the reason I also choose such a small scope of brackets is I like to do a smaller review, right, before I even do the video, because if I just go in like without any knowledge, right, like I'm not giving like I'm not looking through all the alliances when I'm doing like the pre-review, right? But I do get a little look-see so I can kind of understand what I'm talking about, instead of me going into, let's say I went to G20, right? I'm going to be like, I don't know what none of these alliances are. I'm going to be clicking through each one of them, have to go through all their members, like beforehand, not beforehand, but during the video, and be like, okay, well, this is, and it just takes a lot longer in brackets. It looks a lot less interesting. That just doesn't seem like something I feel like you guys would want to watch either. Like, I would just be like a bumbling I mean? Like, I already am, but I would be more of a bumbling idiot if I were to do that, right? Like, it's just a little crazy to me. Okay, we're going to look at G5 now. So I was looking a little bit at G5 beforehand, and when I say that, I was actually more interested in it. I look at most of the brackets I review beforehand, but in the case of G5, I was looking at it, right? And I saw D&T was here. They have Jessica. I know Jessica's been a little bit less active, so I wasn't sure how they would fare here, kind of given the fact that they were facing someone like, Nom 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 and some of the other Legion. And I like Nom Nom Nom. He's a pretty big whale as well. You had IITI, but you have Eastwood here, so I don't know, man. Eastwood is a monster, and it's hard. I feel like there's a lot of whales, but you either get like some whales who are extremely smart. You get some whales who they know what they're doing, but what they do is they'll play and they'll AFK on the field like half the time. I swear this is like a big demographic of like big spenders. They just like AFK out of nowhere, or they'll AFK on towers, they'll AFK sending a rally or just something, right? But Eastwood is like one of the smarter players, I feel like, who has like a ton of money to kind of throw around. So playing against a player like Eastwood will not be easy for obviously the enemy Legion. So at least they have Eastwood here. Yeah, you do have these other groups. I know a lot less about these than I know about like D&T, and obviously Eastwood. I know D&T more so because I'm like friendly with them, as well as like they do appear a lot more in higher brackets. So I'm not really going to comment on the other legions as much, but I will say it doesn't look bad. They do look like they have a lot of fighters here. So at the very least, they'll be helpful in the field. They'll be helpful in maybe tower reinforcing, and potentially being able to help with like a double or triple rallies, you know what I mean, or even quad rallies, as long as all the garrison and rally captains are kind of active. And now we're going to look at Golden. We do have ZRS. ZRS has a lot of beasts here. You have Nom 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 Nom. And I'm not trying to say this every single time I look at this guy, but he is a beast. His armaments are really good. Obviously, his gear is really good, and they do have some like really big fighters here. I think a lot of these guys do come from ANCS, obviously, so they do have a lot of heavy hitters, which will be a problem, for Jade. I actually think that this might be one of the more interesting top brackets, considering like this probably will actually be a lot more tins. This is probably up there with like I think it was G3 I was looking at earlier. These other alliances don't have as like many whales, right? Like I think like one of the biggest issues might end up being like whale power. I think they're gonna need like ZRS to tank the rallies, that or they're gonna have to tank the rallies and take probably even trades or bad trades, right? And on like one of these other groups or whatever, and then the reason I say like ZRS tank the rallies is because I feel like the tank should usually be the strongest, because you don't want to send like a one of your normal size players kind of to tank the rally. You want the counter damage kind of hits coming out from like obviously one of the weaker players. Although you have Darth Vader here as well, and if this guy is active, he could be a really good rally captain as well. So I guess we'll kind of see from there. Now we were looking around the map. I didn't actually look at these alliances beforehand, and this is what I was talking about earlier, guys. So I'm actually gonna have to go through these groups. You have Beefcake, I actually like that guy. I don't know about like massive whale power though. That's maybe gonna be an issue when it comes down to like tower fights. If you want to support your faction up mid. This guy, I know he's from like RPG. I don't know about his armaments though. Armaments is like one of the hardest things to determine. Like, I wish there was a screen. I mean, I guess if you want to view your enemy's armaments, you could always send like an alt to the region, and you could look at their hero rankings. You could look in the rankings for all the heroes and just kind of determine how the armaments are looking based off that. But even then, you can kind of get around that by just taking off your armaments before your fights actually begin. So like they won't actually be able to see your armaments, and you can't really determine who you want to ally with. Like that's actually a really good way if you want to determine who you're going to ally with. I recommend like sending an alt to the regions, checking out the heroes on obviously the strongest players, and being like, yeah, are these guys secretly a mega whale? You know what I mean? Are these guys secretly a monster just hiding their true cards? Because on paper Azure can maybe look stronger, but then you have Crimson who has a monster. I will say the Azure probably has the upper hand, having a player like King. If he's able to help with rallies, able to help garrisoning, I think it's gonna be kind of hard for whoever's on the other end of this. Obviously they're not like the main legion, but they kind of are up there having a mega whale as long as King is an active fighter. I think the biggest issue with like one of these legions, for example, is just having someone who has like has like armaments up there. It's just rough. I think this is kind of regular too. It's always, well, if you don't have that mega whale, you're screwed, right? And I was actually talking with someone. I was talking with Fish yesterday, and we were talking about D&T, and I was saying, is it really good for them to have a player like Jessica in here, because maybe it's going to mess up their matchmaking. And he was also saying, they are 9 billion might, or they're, I guess, almost 10 billion now, right? So it's actually better for them to have a mega whale. And I will think of it like this, even if, like, for example, I've seen some whales who just never show up to fights, but you have like this crazy whale, and I think it helps a lot with like negotiations and to like make your team more confident that you obviously have a big whale on your side to actually show up to fights, because you're actually thinking that you're going to rely on these guys. And in any case, D&T is actually a pretty good group, but I don't know. I mean, I guess they also have Eastwood, so Jade's going to be in a good spot here. Whoever allies with Azure might actually end up becoming the winners of this bracket. I think like Crimson's kind of in a bad spot, not having that same power. Like, oh wait, I maybe overlooked this. I don't know if these guys have like armaments though, like that, like this. It's gonna be kind of hard. Okay, it's gonna be kind of hard to determine. You guys give me your thoughts. You tell me in the comment section. Maybe tell me what bracket you're in, and just tell me what bracket you're in, alliance you're in, and maybe I'll just check it out. And I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna make a video out of it, but I'll just check it out to check it out. Okay. You guys tell me if you guys think you're gonna win your bracket. How you guys are feeling about this. And yeah, I do appreciate you guys as always for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next video. And that is it. Peace out.